Hi there, this is Evan here from the Latino Institute at Patreon, and we're going to look at the second letter in our series of cursive letters. The first letter we looked at was the letter I, straight up, down and flick away, and that's the letter I. The letter we're looking at today is the letter S, which in the printed form is something like that, and in the cursive form is formed like this. We go straight up, just like we did when we started the I, and then we come down and make a letter J inside it, touch the back stroke very lightly, and then flick away like so. Now this letter, which I'll discuss with you later, has got some things to be avoided, and I'll show you what they are. One thing to be avoided is this here, where the flick away line creates this little gap that looks like a horn or something like that. What you want is straight up, dark down, flick away like that, where the line is on the line and you don't have this gap in here, which I'm now filling in. This space, you don't have this space in here. You don't want that. So let's have a look at this letter again. It's formed straight up, we come down straight, and then we turn sharply just as we hit the line, and then we flick away like so. Straight up, straight down, flick away. Light up, dark down, flick away. Now if you're wondering why this S has this peculiar shape, you have to understand the history of this letter. It's actually a half S, and that's the full S. The full S actually looked like this in most scripts, so it was a loop. And this S was used in the middle of words, and the half S, which is this one here, it's half of the S, was used at the end of words. So you'd only find this form here at the very end of a word. The same with the small s, like this. If you look at old printed books, you'll find a letter with a little line at the back here, or sometimes it was printed like that, or it looked like an F, and in fact the only thing distinguishing it from the F, if it was printed in the printed form, something like that, is that it had a little line at the back like that, and F, the line crossed all the way. So it was a fiddly letter, and it was well suited to Latin, where the letter F doesn't occur very often, but in other languages it caused problems. And so with time, certainly by the end of the 1700s, the early 1800s, the long S was falling into disuse, and from about 1820, 30 onwards we don't find it very often. So the cursive S, light up, dark down, like so. Light up, dark down, light up, dark down, light up, dark down. Light up, dark down, light up, dark down, light up, dark down. So things to watch out for. What students are often tempted to do is do this. Make an S like that. Right, that's not the traditional form of this letter, so we don't make an S and disconnect it. It's a much more elegant letter like that. Straight up, make a small J, flick. straight up, down, make a small J, tuck it in, and flick. What you don't want to do is go forwards like that. So you don't want to make that shape. And you also don't want your letter to be too slim either. A nice shape. Of course, everyone forms their letters differently when they start to write fast. And at the moment we're just looking at a nice intermediary form. And you will form your own style as you start to learn this type of writing. You will develop a distinctive hand which will only be yours. Right, we're not learning calligraphy here. We are learning a nuts and bolts alphabet that was taught throughout the British Empire and is still taught in many places. I myself was taught this particular alphabet when I was at primary school in South Africa. Many years ago, in a place called Muizenberg. As I'm busy writing these, I'll remind you that this video is produced by the Latino Institute, and if you want to support videos of this type, the time it takes to make them, and etc., and the other free resources that Latinum provides on its YouTube channel in Latin, in French, handwriting, Hebrew, and various other things, please do go to Latinum at Patreon and think about supporting this channel by making a subscription to Latinum. Now, of course, at this point we have learned 2 letters, so we can form our first word. And I'll go to red. Our first letter that we learned, of course, was I. And we join that to an S. And that gives us the word is. And we can write that out a few times. This, of course, is a very common word. You'll be writing this rather a lot. Once again, the things you need to check as you're writing this, let's go to pink, and you need to get a ruler and check every now and then, make these lines and make sure that your letters are all on the same slope and not different slopes. What you don't want to have is this kind of thing going on, which does happen to beginning students, where you don't really have control of your angles. And I'll reiterate what I said in lesson 1, the great importance of simply drawing lots of horizontal lines that are on the same slope. Now you can change the slope. If you want to have a more sloped letter, you can do that, and your S can be more sloped or less sloped, so you can have an S which has got a greater slope or virtually no slope at all. What's important is consistency. So if you have an S that's like this, then all your other letters, well, it's not sloping backwards, it's sloping forward slightly. Letters should never slope backwards, or this one, which is sloping forwards, is all your letters should have the the same slope. This does take time, so what I would highly recommend you doing is making lines to check your slope. And you can use a ruler to do this. I'm just doing it freehand. Check your slopes and just see that by eye, because this is not doesn't have to be completely scientific. And of course, the other thing you need to check is your heights of your letters. Are they all more or less the same height, and are they all on the line? You don't want to have your S's like this one floating up in the air above the line, and you don't want to have it, this one's on the line, because if you start your upstroke below the line, the chances are you're going to end up below the line like that. Once you've accustomed yourself to writing on a line with lined paper, and your eye gets used to getting everything on the level like this, you won't need lined paper anymore to write. So letter I from the first lesson, and the letter S from the second lesson. And that's our second lesson from the Latino Institute in the cursive script. And to remind you, if you want to support this channel, please visit Latinum at Patreon, where you'll find mainly language resources, but I believe that cursive writing is an important asset in language learning. When your brain learns words that are all joined together, as they are in cursive, it treats them differently and more efficiently than words where the letters are separate, and there's lots of neuroscientific evidence for this. So when you're learning vocabulary, I highly recommend you use cursive to write out your words and not print script where the letters are all separate. What apparently happens is when you join letters together to make a word, your brain treats the joined letters as one item, and this is much more efficient in terms of learning than your brain having to take the respective letters, recombine them to form the word, and then treat them as one item. So you are knocking one step out of the equation, and this does speed things up. And of course, once again, the importance of checking your angles. This is very, very important, and I will stress it over and over again. Get a ruler and draw lines through your letters so you can see your slopes. These are not exactly on the line because I'm doing them freehand. If you have a ruler, you'll get this more accurate, and your lines will actually be on the line. Whoops, there we are. And here too, like so. Draw a line that goes through the letter so you can check your slopes, like so. As long as they are more or less the same, your writing will have some beauty to it. A large part of the beauty of cursive is this regularity. The regularity of spacing, which we can see you're learning here by making lots of horizontal lines, and the regularity of slope. So once again, what you need to practice is you need to be making lots of lines like this. So in between drawing your letters, spend some time just making lines. Try get them the same distance from each other, equidistant, and try get them to be the same height. Start from the right and work towards the left, which is the way you would write naturally. So that's the end of this lesson, the letter S, brought to you by Latinum, and you can find Latinum at Patreon. Bye.